Perfect. The recording has begun, and I think it's time to get started with the webinar. I'll quickly start by introducing Samson sir. I think before I give a very formal introduction, I think Samson sir, we've been working with him for so long, but beyond that, I think he's one person who anyone in pharma that does tend to know him. You know, like whenever I'm talking to a customer and we tell them we're working with Viyash Life Sciences, they're like, oh, Samson sir, yes, I work with him that year. He helped me with this problem. He helped me with that problem. So I think Samson sir is our go-to guy for anything pharma, anything EcoVadis, anything a lot more. I think while the topic talks about EcoVadis, but I think we would be really underutilizing our time if we just focus on utilizing on just speaking about EcoVadis, because Samson sir is just like a whole wealth of knowledge. I think every time I go to see him, he'll show me some other tool he's toying around with, which he did during his MBA, etc. So I'm very, very excited for this conversation. I'll quickly start with the introduction. So Dr. Samson JK, he is an accomplished EHS and sustainability leader, bringing over 2 decades of rich experience in the industry. Right, with extensive expertise across diverse sectors, including pharmaceutical, biopharmaceuticals, petrochemicals, oil and gas. Dr. Sampson has a proven track record in driving impactful initiatives like ESG planning, strategy, EHS audits, integrated management systems, and a lot more. Today, he is the VP and Head of EHS and ESG at Viyash Life Sciences. And we are so excited to have you on, sir. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. Amazing. So I hope I am audible, right? So I'll quickly kick this off with the first question that we have planned for you, right? Quickly starting about just the basics, right? Let's start at the top at a very broad topic, and then let's slowly go into a deeper aspect. Right. First is we love to hear from you that talking about the pharmaceutical industry, what are the key ESG challenges that are specific to the pharmaceutical industry, and how are companies like you, your peers, addressing them?
Well, so first of all, I'd like to thank Oren for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge, at the same time learn from the participants, from the audience, in fact. So I may not claim myself as a great ESG IHS guy, so it's always a kind of a learning process and a learning curve. Well, so whatever I think that's or my experience, I'll give my perspective in this front. So going with your first question, like what are the key ESG challenges? And that's very specific to the pharma industry. I'll try to restrict myself to the pharma. So since it is mostly focused towards pharmaceutical company. ESG, so I will go in that same fashion. From the environment perspective, what could be the key challenges, social, and the governance aspects. From environmental perspective, yes, definitely we can say that from environment perspective, in a bulk drug industry, it's slightly different, and in a formulations industry, it will be slightly different. In the bulk drug industry, it is going to be very challenging since we'll be using extensive amount of chemicals, solvents, and whatnot. So naturally, you will have a big challenge in treating a highly dynamic, fluctuating, recalcitrant effluent, having high TDS and high COD effluent coming, and which is not going to be uniform all the time. You will be having different campaigns, different products, different market season. So you are going to have a big challenge. And especially if you're going to manufacture any antibacterial stuff, then it's going to be all the more challenging because antimicrobial resistance also has taken a global stage now, and Hyderabad has become so important in the global map of AMR. Okay, so of course that we can talk separately, AMR. But the key challenge from an environment perspective is the treatment of effluents. And secondly, of course, from an ESG perspective, the solvents and hazardous material, the solid waste, the disposal of that one, that is also a key challenge, right? And Coming to the third aspect, from core ESG perspective, now the biggest challenge is how to reduce the carbon footprint, especially decarbonization. So this transition is a low-hanging fruit and is a challenging one for any pharma, which is going to be very, very different for different kinds of companies, depending upon the type of fuel they use. And I don't want to give a big laundry list rather. So the fourth one, I would say rather plastic waste management, which is not that um, quite prevalent now, and single-use plastics aspect of it. This is also a great big challenge for the industries to really look into. So these are the key challenges, I would say. And in fact, so you might ask me, like, how do you really go about in addressing this one? So if you would allow me to say so.
Yes, absolutely. I think that would have been my next question. That would love to hear from you on how does one go about addressing these challenges.
Yeah, so in a kind of pharmaceutical company, we have a blessing in disguise. The Pollution Control Board has rather directed many of the companies to go for zero liquid discharge plants. If not, we have to give it to the common effluent treatment plant where it is commonly treated with others. Having said that one, many times, many of our colleagues, they focus on the end of the pipe. But we need to shift from the end of the pipe to the start of the pipe. So I would say that to the extent you focus on the source segregation, water and wastewater mapping, to that extent you can succeed in addressing the challenge of this particular recalcitrant type of say effluent, which is very hard to treat, which is not that easily biodegradable. So of course conventionally people know, oh, we have to do it as high TDS, which is a strong stream, and a low TDS, low COD stream, which is the lean stream. But this may not be sufficient in the days to come from ESG perspective. So we may have to do little more exercise. What exactly? So in fact, we need to explore, okay, from the production process, do we have any solvent stream coming? Solvent, again, we can segregate as LBS, low boiling solvents, and high boiling solvents. So you might ask me, why should we segregate again solvents as low boiling and high boiling? So people who are operating the zero liquid discharge plant would know they cannot have a stripper to strip high boiling solvents. So we need to segregate low boiling and high boiling. If it is quite high boiling with high COD, we can directly dispose it to the cement plant for co-incineration, co-processing related things, rather than putting down through the zero liquid discharge plant, which is going to be pretty difficult. So a proper segregation, so LBS, HBS, and if you are having antimicrobial, that's segregation separately. So to the extent you can segregate, to the extent you can really manage well. So that is my simple solution, what I could experience over the years. This is from the effluent perspective. Coming to the solvent and hazardous waste disposal, the same way as I said, if you can succeed in even in segregating chlorinated, non-chlorinated, there are many companies who have best practices to segregate halogenated and non-halogenated also. So when you segregate to the maximum, then you have the options in your hand how best to treat it accordingly. Right? So, and coming to the plastics management, yes, we need to now understand how many carboys or liners or material is coming in and we are putting in the market. You would appreciate now people will know the EPR has come into play, extended producer's responsibility. So now it is a legal requirement also that we need to really account for how much we are importing and at the same time how much we are putting on the market within India also. So that would definitely call you for to categorize different kinds of plastics, whether it is compostable or mixed or it is. So there are four kinds of plastics are there, and accordingly how much recyclable portion you are going to have, how much you are going to really make use of the recycled one in that proportion. So these things will help you really address these four key challenges, to my knowledge, that we are facing in many of the industries. That could be the same thing. True. Right. So this is from the environment perspective. Coming to social, of course, like any company would like to have a drug affordable and accessible to the unreached, to the needy people. So this is a definite challenge. At the same time, this is to be achieved through ethical manner, with all human rights and labor related things in compliance. So in some parts it is a challenge. So that also has to be taken care through strong labor and human rights policies that's in place. Of course, under social comes this health and safety aspect of it. So EHS guys, definitely they understand how they can improve a health and safety management system. So maybe through ISO 45001 or process safety management and many other behavior-based safety. And these management systems with good leading and lagging indicators would be really handy for someone to address the basic safety-related, health-related issues. And accordingly, we can have them on check. Coming to the governance aspects, yes, so they call it the triple T: transparency, right, trust, and traceability. So this is all the more required for the industry, for the stakeholders, as per the expectations. So a very good governance mechanism is the key for the overall ESG management. So in many companies, I suppose now 90%, 80 to 90%, at least in India, EHS people are having this ESG portfolio in hand. Elsewhere, SCM people have, of course, production people have, but predominantly in India is the EHS folks, they take up this portfolio. Having said that one, we need to have very good committee with all interdisciplinary team from all functions, then only it can be effectively taken forward with frequent meetings with a very, very clear ESG roadmap. So that will take us to the next step. So I don't want to say cover everything. So just this is the gist of the challenges and a close way to address that.
Perfect, perfect. That's super, super helpful for us to also understand. I think in terms of the operational side of things, what are certain challenges you would face. But I think one more thing I'd like you to add to this is that you talked about the pollution control board as one external stakeholder that has kind of changed the rules, which have brought you back to the drawing board on certain elements to rethink certain existing processes, right? In a similar fashion, are there any other external stakeholders, right? I do know that customers for one, customers or investors or shareholders or even bankers, right? Are there any other external stakeholders today that are interested in looking at a company's sustainability information, sustainability metrics, sustainability implementations? Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Definitely. So while we give the credit to the effluent treatment, zero liquid discharge, to the PCB related or regulatory related one, ESG, the sense we should say our customer is our boss. So they set their requirements. So whether it is the customers or the regulators or the investors. In our case, we do have both investors and also our customers. So for that matter, if you take a pharma company, definitely they want to get it certified for US FDA. That's where the money comes when you export. So when you have US customers and when you export to European market, all those places, definitely then this ESG expectations come automatically. So investors also, since they are multinational or they have a global operation, they also have a clear mandate that this we need to have as a roadmap. Talking about customers, they have set some guidelines like, okay, if My supplier is not having a minimum ESG score, for example, EcoVadis. So EcoVadis, if they do not have a bronze rating, or if they do not have, say, above the 55, different people have different cutoff. So that minimum score, unless they have it as a minimum criteria for them to have the business with. So that becomes a essential thing, that it is not anymore a nice to have, it is a business imperative. So that's how it has become very, very strong, that ESG has to be built, integrated into the business. So it is not a standalone or a kind of nice to have it used to be.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree that that's something that we're seeing across the board, right? And like you said, different customers have different requirements from an ESG score, like the EcoVadis score perspective, right? And I think a lot of people here are kind of going through that process of kind of sometimes even filling out their EcoVadis assessment for the first time, or maybe focusing on some score improvement. Right. And actually to get a pulse of what part of the journey people are stuck at, I'd love for us to do a little poll, right? So that we could just kind of cater our conversation and move our conversation in that direction, depending on your responses. So, and again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. So if you could just spend, again, just 2 seconds filling out this poll for us, it would be super, super useful for us to understand where are you in terms of your journey. It's very interesting. I think about so far 73%, and something, so this one's for you, right? Like about 55% have never done the EcoVadis assessment. The next biggest bucket is folks that have a silver badge. 28%, 27% have a silver badge. That's beautiful. 2 people have a platinum badge also. Wow, three people have a platinum badge. That is quite interesting. Perfect. I think we can kind of move on from here, right? So I think now that now that the rabbit is out of the hat, right? Now that we've all spoken about EcoVadis, let's kind of go deeper into it, right? And again, what would love to understand from you, that why is the EcoVadis rating crucial for pharmaceutical companies, and could you tell us a little bit about how the process works? I do know that everything is available on the website. And again, we're happy to send across those resources for people who are early on their journey. But sort of, as someone like you who's been through this journey, could you tell us a little bit more about the approach here?
Sure. So to start with, I would say at the outset, EcoVadis is a passport for a sustainable business partnership. Why should I say that way? Because before any company initiate, or while in the process of evaluating a supplier, they try to say, okay, what is the score for my supplier on EcoVadis? So if the EcoVadis score is acceptable for them, then we are getting the green signal. So that's why we say EcoVadis is the passport to sustainable business partnership. So for a very good investor and regulatory compliance perspective, and from a competitive differentiation perspective, EcoVadis score, now in fact, many of the audience said that they are silver, gold, platinum. This is a classical example how they differentiate themselves in the market. So it's a competitive advantage, and within that is a competitive differentiation as well. So this itself shows to the market how serious they are, how forward looking they are. So it's a kind of branding as well. So giving the say customer a comfort. Okay, really their risks are under control. They have a very good system in place, and it is independently, in a systematic fashion, internationally evaluated and given the ranking. So this is a international ranking that holds good for any international player for that matter. So you will definitely know that ESG covers all the four themes, ESG themes, rather it is environment, labor, HR, and sustainable procurement, apart from other than ethics also. So it tries to cover, to my knowledge, around 21 sustainability criteria. So it has a balance of all the recent sustainability expectations around the world, and it is built on 3 management pillars. So I used to tell my team, so you need to remember these 2 things. One is PAR, another is CAR. What is this PAR, CAR? So these 3 management pillars, this stands for, PAR stands for policies, actions, and results. So when you have the policies governing all your the way of doing things, and how you act, that comes the action, and based on that you have a report, the results part of it. So EcoVadis tries to evaluate you on this PAR. After the evaluation, they give you the CAR. What is that CAR? Corrective action report. Based on that, you will make your corrective action plan. So this is very useful. So under the 4 themes, under the 21 sustainability criteria, so they will give you clear roadmap. So where you need to develop, where you are strong, where you are weak, with respect to policy, with respect to action, with respect to results. So you can clearly make your ESG roadmap for your industry with your car. So this is in a nutshell, I would say. And at the same time, EcoVadis has also evolved with every year becoming more and more stringent, with more things added into it. And even the benchmarking exercise also, they have made it stringent. Earlier it used to be 50% was the bronze. I suppose now it has become 35%, 65% percentile basis. They are giving the medals, and now badges also introduced, and they have given away with rating certificates. So it is getting more and more competitive, and it is not for one sector. It is now made for all the industries put together. Internationally, you can know where you stand and how much you stand with respect to your policies, actions, and results. So that's a nutshell. So if you're scoring high, you need not say goodbye to people. Definitely, that's going to be an open door for your customers to really source you up.
Yeah, and I think they also, EcoVadis does also keep you on your toes by changing the methodology year on year, right? I think you kind of develop a framework. Okay, this is how I could get a goal next year, and boom, just suddenly they change the methodology, and then you're figuring out, oh, hey, I did not account for this, I did not account for that. So yeah, they truly keep you active. I think coming back to the pharmaceutical context here as well, so that. So what are certain common challenges that you've seen pharmaceutical companies go through, when it comes to EcoVadis? And also would love to hear from you that just sustainability is a journey, right? On day one, no one's got everything sorted. Sometimes you have to step in, create new policies after you learn how important they can be, and then follow the action and the results aspect. Right. So, number one is, what are certain common challenges you've noticed in the pharmaceutical and in industry? And then again, if someone has to kind of very slowly but in a very holistic fashion, kind of create like a roadmap for them for themselves, how should they go about thinking about it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in fact, for people who are starting their journey, so I would recommend that they need to compile the data, collect that, and have their first in-house ESG report or a sustainability report. That would really help them to know where they are with respect to the data collection and the requirement. So they'll have a fair idea. Okay, so what are the data required, from whom all we need to collect, and how it's the process. So that will at least get set. First year, that will be a good exercise to have an in-house sustainability report with all the buy-in from the top management. So the stage is set. Next year, you can think of having, okay, this ESG report, I can make it in GRI framework setup. So Then third year, you can go for GHG verification with reasonable or kind of assurance. All those things you can keep adding into that one. Okay, that's all. That's all great. But how do they really collect all this data? So they call it, no, they say, unless you organize, you will agonize. Unless you put the data together in a very good structured fashion, it will be very difficult later to understand how it came and to verify and account that. So the biggest challenge I have seen so far in my experience is the ESG documentation, the data documentation. So it has to be very structured, whether you have a software or not. Even a simple Excel sheet also can help you. Probably you can have Google Sheets also or a SharePoint. But when you're going to have a structured data, that will really help you. So at the same time, we need to have very clear tier system, like who is the actual user, generator, collector, reviewer, and validating person. So when you have different tiers, then you will have the data flowing seamlessly and in a consistent fashion so that you can really vouch for the data that you are producing. So data management is key for that one, because end of the day, EcoVadis is going to ask, what is the proof? No proof, no score, no door, then you lose the key, right? So this is the first challenge. Then comes, of course, supplier gaps, rating collapse. So we need to have very good policies, how we are going to have your dealings with the suppliers. So green procurements or supplier side assessments, their training, all those things. So you need to establish very good connection with the suppliers also. So of course you have many methods, spend method and then averaging method. But the point here is that if you have gaps with suppliers, you're going to have gaps with EcoVadis score also. So that's one. And next important thing, the footprint, carbon footprint or GHG, scope 1, 2, 3, it's going to be very, very important. That documentation is also key. I have seen many companies, they start putting together scope 1, scope 2, all those things, but they do not have the evidence to back this up. For example, if you are having the fuel related stuff from every unit, and especially when a corporate person collecting data from different units, you need to also collect the evidence, also say the invoice, so the electricity bill. So that will definitely help you in the long run. So that will really set up the foundation for ESG data collection. So this will bring traceability and transparency and really good assurance into the data. So that should help, at least from the ESG data perspective, to start with for any startup company as such. And once you get into EcoVadis and they give a very clear corrective action report, which clearly says that these are the questions, these are the areas, the high impact areas you have scored less. So it is very clear which are all the high impact one I should focus on first, next medium, next low. So that gives a very clear roadmap for anyone.
Perfect, perfect. And sir, I think just kind of another element I'd like for you to add here, right? That how has EcoVadis, I mean, how does it influence partnerships between a company and their supplier, right? So, of course, your customer and you and your customer. Could you talk about how maybe EcoVadis or I mean, just sustainability in general has influenced that partnership on both sides for you?
See, definitely it's a great partnership because with respect to our customers or suppliers, it is a pre-qualification requirement, right? So they refuse to work with suppliers below, some companies that give below bronze rating or below 45 kind of thing. They put a mark below which we are not going to engage with those suppliers. So it does become a strong pre-qualification requirement. So anybody who wants to be in the business, definitely they have to consider this which is going to be a determining factor for the business. So it is going to future proof your business. Okay. Secondly, their contract requirements. So the renewals. Even if you are a existing supplier for a prospective customer, when they are going to review, this criteria is going to be a key whether they will continue with you or they will choose somebody else who has a better ESG record or who has a better EcoVadis score. So this is a very serious point that we need to drive in the minds of senior people so that they prepare themselves, align themselves, and make their strategic ESG plan so that they do not regret later. So it is better you plan it, and this is the role of the ESG guys to really sensitize the top management in that lines so that we do not end up in a kind of business impact. At the same time, not only from the scoring part of it or prerequisites, also any company who engages with you, they get a comfort, oh, the risk reduction in supply chain. So usually this is driven by the supply chain arm of any customer. So they see these are the ESG risks. So when a company is independently evaluated and they have a very good score and they have a reasonable system in place, they get a feeling, yes, my risk is very well mitigated and we can continue to have our relationship and our supply chain will not get impacted and our operations will not get disrupted. So that is the kind of the forging of partnership in this case. So I
Got
would
it.
say that
Yeah.
without compliance, you will not have alliance.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think just moving on beyond the topic of EcoVadis to AMR, right? I think you've done extensive work around AMR. So would love to know that what is the pharmaceutical industry's responsibility when it comes to addressing AMR as both a global health crisis and an environment issue? And again, of course, for some of us who do not know what AMR is, I think we'd love it if you just start by giving us a quick overview about AMR, the work you've done in this space, and then the question is just asked, yeah.
Right. AMR, at least for people who are in Hyderabad and who are in the pharma field, it's not going to be new, I suppose. And this AMR has no, Hyderabad has come into the global map, especially Musi River, and many of the companies also hit the headlines from the AMR perspective. Basically, what is this? When any company which manufactures antibacterial drugs and the escape of these antibacterial drugs into the environment, into the groundwater, into the soil, into the air, so this can make a normal bacteria develop resistance, and this is going to make the doctor give you more antibiotic dose. You are not going to respond to your usual dose of antibiotics. This is the danger if we are not going to produce and dispose antimicrobial drug related things in a responsible way. So the key comes back all that effluence, all that waste that you generate in your industry where you are producing antimicrobial drug, you need to collect, treat, dispose, account in a responsible way. And for this purpose, of course, there is a AMR Industrial Alliance framework available, and they have come up with a standard also in collaboration with BSI. So there is a separate AMRIA standard for manufacturing of antibiotics and ecotoxicity. So, and of course, PSCA has extensive data available online, how to manage AMR. So using that resources, so you can implement the systems and then you can get it certified also through international, for the international kite mark BSI certificate. So which we got it recently for one of our products. So this is for specifically one product. So, but this is not that difficult, I would say. Any company which has implemented ISO 14001 can use the same framework for this also and use the same approach for AMR management as well, except for some calculations which is involved in that one. That is also very much doable, and there are very good exercises available in PSCI to emulate that and take it up accordingly.
Noted. And how can these companies integrate the AMR risk management into their broader sustainability strategies?
Well, so when AMR is a key topic around the globe, when a drug is sourced from Hyderabad, they are going to ask, oh, is there any AMR risk? So naturally, then we need to address those concerns through a good management system. And that's how we can really defend ourselves. And not only from that perspective, especially when you are manufacturing antibacterials, you need to prove. And there are some countries like Germany, they will come down and take samples from your site and they will check whether you are discharged, whether it's a zero liquid discharge or you are sending to CETP. They'll take the effluent and check what is the level, they call it risk quotient, whether it is less than 1 or not. So beyond the management systems, beyond the certifications, they do come and have sample analysis also and check whether you have this kind of ESG risk, which has a larger impact on the community and around the globe.
Noted, noted. And I wasn't aware that these companies will actually come down to do that test, the Germany example. I think also in addition to AMR, could you also talk a little bit about how pharmaceutical companies are thinking about solvent management as well, right? And again, basis your experience, what are certain best practices for minimizing the environmental impact of the solvents that we tend to use?
Well, so before I jump into the solvent aspect, so I can have just a quick parallel. So now this CBAM is coming into play. So whatever materials, say Europe, they say that whatever materials that will come into Europe, we will check or we will limit with respect to the emissions that it can produce. The same way, AMR also, before it can create impact by using these medicines or by the people all around, they want to check on this one. So that is the front. AMR has become a serious ESG risk also. Okay, coming to the solvent management. In a pharma plant, without solvents, we cannot live. It is an essential thing for us. We have low boiling, medium boiling, and high boiling solvents. But of late, I could get an understanding of this one, how this can have environmental impact, health and safety impact, and ESG impact. Overall, this has a great operation excellence feature. To give you an example, recently I was investigating one of kind of small incident. So where the tray dryer, so the solvents that is coming out, so that was not condensed well, because that was namesake, the media that was coming in was not condensing well. And he was trying to say, sir, instead of this one, I'll condense that in the compressor. Then I was saying, okay, now if you're not using a condenser very well, then you are letting out that much solvent into the environment. So this is an environmental issue. At the same time, this is a health and safety issue. Secondly, so he said, sir, as an engineer, so I am trying to condense that in the compressor also. Then I said, this solvent, if it is going into the compressor, then it is a serious process safety issue. So if it's going to generate a small spark, this will be a huge explosion. So that is a huge safety issue. When you are going to have a very good, for say low boiling, it is little difficult to condense it efficiently. Whereas for high boiling, you can condense it efficiently, right? At the same time, low boiler, you can easily strip it in the ME, whereas high boiling, you cannot strip it in ME that easily. So it has some complementary things. So I was telling that if you're going to have very good scrubbing media, or rather it is a cooling media, you can efficiently condense it. You can get rid of health and safety risk and also environmental risk, and also you're going to save that much solvent. So if you just put a simple calculation of 5 to 10% increase in condensing your solvent vapor that is going out into the environment, 10% of your overall savings of solvents used in your operation, this will be running into crores, running into crores. At times, I have seen some very, usual retort from the utility or the engineer who would say, no, sir, if you are increasing the chilling water, if you're going for a very good, efficient chilling media, the utility cost will go up. Then I had to really work out and tell him, my friend, even if you go for liquid nitrogen, which would cost you 75 rupees per kg, still, in spite of incurring that, when you are going to condense that one, you are going to have a huge saving, a huge ROI. So this has multiple impacts. So ESG, overall health and safety, environment, and it's a great operational excellence aspect. So which definitely ESG and EHS experts should consider that as an objective and target and focus on where all solvents can be really contained, right from the reception up to the disposal. Gate to gate, definitely it can be taken up and it is very easily doable.
Got it. And I think is there such a concept or is there such a thing called green solvents, right? Or maybe greener, right? Like a more sustainable, greener alternative, right? And how does one go about procuring it, adopting it into the current processes of a pharmaceutical value chain?
Right. So basically, this is the understanding we need to give, or we need to sensitize with the R&D people, process development people, where they should consider green solvents or preferred solvents instead of using banned solvents or restricted solvents. So many times they will try to justify saying that no, this reaction will work out only with this solvent. Other solvent will not work out. Fine. So as ESG people, we have to ask for a justification why it will only work in that solvent. So that justification itself will make them think through. That is one aspect. Secondly, we have to ask them, like from the process mass intensity perspective, for 1 kg of product, how much solvents you'll be using. And these solvents, whether it is health and safety impacting one or ecotoxic one or many other hazardous properties it has. So based on that, when you rank it, automatically they are going to limit that. It is not an overnight exercise, but we need to sensitize, and it is a top-down driven approach, because once the process is set, it is very difficult to change. By the time it is changed, it would have done its big impact or it would have created that much loss. So that is why right from the start, at the process development stage itself, green chemistry has to be taught. And ESG, how it plays a part, they can show the mirror to them. See, this is the amount of solvent you are using in the process. This is the extent of water you are using. This is the extent of hazardous waste you are generating. So when you put these things before them, for 1 kg of product, this much you are generating, automatically this is a force on them to work on that and revise it in a better, efficient way.
Noted. I have some questions coming into my personal chat. I'll pick that up in 1 minute, right? I just wanted to introduce one last topic that I wanted to get your views and your experience on, and then I can just dive into the questions, right? But folks, please send in your questions, right? We will do it. This is my last question, I promise, right? I think one more thing is that I think talking about zero landfill, right? I would also really like it if you could touch upon a little bit about certain strategies that you've seen pharmaceutical companies adopt or you yourself adopted on how to achieve zero landfill status, right? And is it really feasible for all companies in the sector in the industry to do it?
Yeah, it is feasible. So we need to believe that it is doable and it can be done. So in fact, this is not kind of a very recent or a novel one. It has been there in the practice since 2010, but it has taken acceleration over the years. And over the years now, even Pollution Control Board encourages all the pharma companies, chemical companies, to dispose that to the cement plant as a co-incineration or co-processing or alternate fuel facility to dispose that into, so that they can give it to the cement plant. So it is possible for that matter. How do we start really then? It is how actually you do the mapping, waste mapping. Segregation and waste mapping is the key. So when you have a very good segregation and waste mapping, hazardous, non-hazardous, again in hazardous, so whether it is solvent based, non-solvent based, halogen, non-halogen. So when you have an idea, then you can know what all you can mix and give it together, and then you can understand how much calorific value it has. So especially cement plant, for that matter, they call it TSR, thermal substitution rate. They use conventionally coal or diesel or something like that. If you are going to give your waste, which is at least 50% more than that calorific value, why they will not say yes? So definitely they'll take it. So the point here is that if your waste has a reasonable calorific value, then you can comfortably dispose it to the cement plant. Right. Now the question will come, the waste I generate is not having enough calorific value. In that case, what to do? So in that case, there are intermediaries, there are facilities who collect this one, mix it with other high calorific value materials, make it consistent for the cement plant to get that fed to their kiln. So then through that medium also we can go for that one. So now over the years, now it has been proven that compared to landfill, the cost to AFR and cement plant is slightly lesser, and it is very much doable. And of course, I could see at least for the last 15 years how people have incrementally improved on this. But so just a practical thing, I used to operate incinerator earlier, 15, 20 years back. We used to have diesel to incinerate the waste. Then it was pretty costly to put diesel and incinerate. Then we went for, instead of diesel, we wanted to use furnace oil and reduce the cost. Then furnace oil also was felt very costly. Then we said, why furnace oil? Let us use the residue from the solvent recovery plant. We can co-incinerate, so you can reduce the amount of fuel. Then later we thought, still this also is pretty costly. We'll use the spent solvent and use that as a fuel. Still brought the costing less. And then why after all we should burn this one? Let us give it to a third party who does it. And then I said, okay, you please take this one free of cost. So we got rid of total incineration cost. Then I said, okay, if somebody is taking, there is some value. Then we negotiated with him. Okay, you give money for the drums. Then we got some money for the drums. Then later still they were taking that. Oh, then it has some commercial value. Then we started saying this has this much calorific value. Now you give me money. So from incurring cost to treat, now we started taking money, making money out of it, provided it has calorific value. So what I mean is that it is very much possible that if we have a good understanding of different ways and we have an understanding of the calorific value, and of course there are some limitation with respect to chlorine, chloride content and heavy metal content. So if we have an idea, definitely we can do it. And zero landfill program initiative is very much doable and it is achievable. Even in many other states also now it is being achieved. And recently in Maharashtra also they have now seeing AP, Telangana and Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. So even Maharashtra has taken up this measure, and we have taken up that measure in those units in Maharashtra as well.
Noted. I'm actually sitting in I'm in Vapi right now, and at the plant of a chemicals company. And yes, just this morning they were telling us how about I think it's a high, like a 60% of their waste I think which used to go to landfill is now going to a cement plant around, and how they kind of achieve that entire thing, right? So it's a refresher for me in that regard. And again, these guys are lucky that their product does have that initial high calorific value. So yeah. Um, Sir, I think just one thing is that I have a couple questions with me. And I think Sucheta and I have been talking on the side, right? So she has a question which is pertaining to EcoVadis in the hospitality sector. So I'll take that up with her later, right? So Sucheta, you can just write to me or call me. I've given you both those details, right? But Chinna Durai has a question. Can you please share the basic data required for ESG and GHG accounting? Right. Now, this I think requires 2 hours of everyone's time. But sir, if you could just very, very quickly give us an overview of, again, I know it's a lot, and it also depends on the context of the format, context of the company. But just very briefly, like what are certain data points companies need when they kind of embark on a GHG accounting and in an ESG accounting journey?
Yeah, the scope is very big. Just to limit that scope, it is scope 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So direct and indirect emissions, Chinadurai. So if you go to SBTI, this one, they have a very good Excel sheet, and you can directly use that one to track all your direct emissions, indirect emissions, everything is there in the Excel sheet. So you can basically have all the fuel related things, and accordingly you can convert that into scope 1 and indirect one. So, and scope 3 also, all these 15 categories you have. So all these data points you can put together. So that will give you presently how much you're generating, and for the next 10 years where you want to be, and what mechanism will help you reduce, decarbonize that one. So you can also draw your trajectory from say 2025 to 34, how much you can reduce, 65%, so that you can put and see how much you have to really do to decarbonize if you want to go for near term, and for long term also it has. So that will really help you. So I'm not answering you fully, just giving you an overview of that one. So you have many tools in the net to help you really put together scope 1, 2, and 3, which are all again material for you.
Yes, thank you so much. And one more question, which Mayur is asking: Does type assurance impact scoring in rating platforms like EcoVadis? Mayur, I believe your question is that does getting an assurance positively impact on rating platforms like EcoVadis? Does type of assurance? Okay. So again, what type of assurance is needed, right? And again, does co-processing impact scope 3?
Yes, so I remember 1 ton of waste which you are diverting from landfill to a cement plant will help you save around 470 kilograms of emissions. So definitely it has a big say on that.
Yeah. I think we have 3 more minutes, and this one's really nice. Someone has asked me on my personal chat if you could explain the par car terminology again. It seems like it's catching up. Could you walk us through the par car terminology again?
Okay, PAR is policies, actions, and results. Right? So you need to have documentation to show EcoVadis what are the policies related documents. And you need to also give them evidence what are the action related evidences. And thirdly, results related things. So these 3 things are the 3 categories of documents they look for as an evidence, because they do not come here, they do not interview you. So whatever evidence, whatever documents you are giving them, uploading to EcoVadis in these 3 aspects, that is going to help them evaluate where you are. And mind you, one more thing, you have a limitation. 55 documents only you can upload to EcoVadis. Then you might ask, like, how can I show everything in 55 documents? Yes, that is the challenge. At the same time, the tip here is that if you can integrate all your ESG related thing in your ESG report, you can use one ESG report for so many questions. So have a very good understanding of the ESG report. Try to integrate all the points, whatever ESG, EcoVadis, or for that matter, CDP, or anybody asks for SDG mapping, everything you include that one. So one report will help you answer 80-90% of the questions, and remaining 54 documents can be a real easy cakewalk.
Yeah, adding to that, right? On certain elements, it's even hard to produce a documentation, right? Like there will be question on, did you do a training on topic X, right? So while you did do a training, but your document could be just like a picture of the attendance sheet or an Excel format, which is not always accepted, right? So I think same, just like Sir said, like a sustainability report is just one central space for everything, right? You can use that document multiple times for proof, right? So it really kind of solves multiple issues. Amazing. So we're right on time. Okay, I think so. So one last question. I think on the co-processing bit that Mayur was asked us the question earlier. I'd like to kind of close the loop on that. He has a follow-up that co-processing involves invitations. And Mayur, if you don't mind, you want to maybe unmute and ask yourself. It seems like there's something pressing on your mind, and maybe I'm not able to articulate it a little well.
Yeah, I want to ask that scope 3 involve co-processing generally involves incineration. So will it impact our scope 3 category 3 where we have to account for the fuel and other corrections, particularly category 3 of scope 3?
Yeah, in the transportation part, definitely you have to include that one, and your waste transportation. So there's a separate category in which you can account that.
Yeah. Also, Mayur, category 3 is more about it's more linked to your scope 1, scope 2, right? Like how the coal that you use in your facilities was produced and transported and brought to your facility, right? So category 3 has more to do with that, and incineration is something that will go in the waste management aspect.
No, I had a one question regarding this only. If the incineration facility is your sister concern, or if it is comes you are under the boundary limit, so we in some cases we classified it is under scope 1. So whether we have that facility to reduce the GHG accounting?
If it is in your facility, definitely is your scope 1.
Yeah.
That is going to increase. And I do not know whether still PCB would allow you to incinerate in-house. May
No,
not be a
it is like,
long-term.
Samson sir, it is like that we have a sister concern.
Okay.
So on a group boundary level, it will come under my boundary. But if I'm talking about the particularly the subordinate companies or a sister company, then it will, I think that the way we have we have accounted based on our particular group, like the pharma group, like the chemical group, then your cement
Okay.
group. So on the group front, I think it will comes under the same umbrella. But I think the earlier have you explained in that way, it might be reduce the particular group's GHG.
Yeah, this is a very good question. In fact, we need to apply our mind to really understand Mayur. That's because I didn't experience in this fashion. Really, I need to work out after sitting closely working on that.
Yeah, perfect.
We can get
Also,
back to you.
we'll get back to you, Mayur. Thank you so much. But yes, it was lovely speaking to everyone, and thank you so much, Samson sir, for your time. We learned a lot, and I think the amazing questions helped us kind of think a little bit as well. So I really love that about doing these webinars. And yes, I hope so. You and I hope everyone has a great weekend ahead. Rest up, spend time with family, enjoy the sun, right? And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.